Dude says.
Yes.
Wow, dude. Look at you, looking at you, looking at me.
Give me your hot boy face, Jules, for the folks watching. Give me the hot boy face. You do it all the time on the gram.
I know. Hold on. You're going to make me laugh.
Yes. So handsome. Hot boy in the sleeveless round and third jersey. Oh, there it was. That was a good one too. When you tipped your head like this, you do that a lot at the gym.
At the gym, dude. I
girls
usually
are going
pick
wild.
Pick up my shirt and just look at my one pack, dude. God, dude,
girls are going wild.
I know. I'm very aware of my attraction levels.
That's good. It's good to know and have a sober judgment of thine self, and seemingly you have hit it right on the head of the nail with with your hot boy face.
That way at all.
Bro, your hot boy face is going well. Hey, look at what's happening here. We got the whole crew happening.
Oh, little Tintin.
You want to come say hi to Uncle Dean, Roo?
Come on, say hi to Uncle Dean, Tint. Hi, Uncle Dean. Hi, Tintin. Hi, buddy.
Say hi, Uncle Dean.
Hi, Uncle.
Say hi, Uncle Dean.
Hi, Tintin. He started.
Say it louder. Say it louder. Say hi, Uncle Dean. Say it louder.
Hi, Uncle Dean.
There you go.
Hi, Tintin. How you doing, buddy? I wanted to try to do this conversation without my air conditioner on, but it is hot.
Yeah,
and I'm already sweating.
What's the temp over in NYC?
It's okay today, but it's okay today. It's probably just like in the high 80s or something, but it's just, if you don't keep your air conditioner on, it just gets crazy.
This is such a catch-22. We're so conditioned to be able to control our temperature, but seemingly the reason, like maybe not the reason, but a portion of the reason why the climate is changing is because we have to control our climate. If that makes sense? Like indoors, right? Throw them air conditioners.
Yeah.
Like, how many people in New York City right now have their air conditioning on? Millions.
Every single person. And not only one, I have like, I mean, I don't want to sound like a wasteful human, but I got like 3 air conditioner units going at my house right now because they're in different rooms.
Just running in tandem. I got I got a train of air conditioners.
You have to. Dude, you have to, man. People in Seattle, my mom didn't have air conditioner in Seattle when it got to 115. And like she couldn't even get one. So she just had a fan with ice in front of it that she was blowing into her face. Like, because it was $1,000 for an air conditioner unit. The hotness was only going to last like a week and you couldn't get it. You couldn't get them because they were just out like toilet paper was when the pandemic happened. It was crazy. So in New York, like you're not equipped in Seattle for the hotness like that. But in New York, if you don't have an air conditioner, which I have lived out here without one before, it's unbearable. You're dead. You're not dealing with it. You're not okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine you wouldn't die, but I get your point. Like, you know, for eons, humans existed through warm weather and hot climates, but we're just so soft. Human beings are the softest, most.
I know.
Like,
especially me.
Nah, you got some gall. You got some. I learned this recently, actually. That when the term gall, you know, like, oh, you got some gall. Do you know that saying?
Yeah, I haven't heard that often, but I guess I've heard it before. What does it mean?
Oh, he's got a lot of gall. So apparently it comes from gallbladder. That there's a chemical in someone's gallbladder that gives them more audacity. It's either like if somebody has too much of this specific chemical in their gallbladder or too little of this chemical in their gallbladder, they act erratically. Or like, yeah, I did not know that, but it makes sense.
So it's just like saying you got balls, but just you got gall.
Exactly. You got gall, yeah. My folks would always say it growing up. Yeah, what? Oh, the gall. Oh, the gall.
Oh, the gall.
Yeah.
I got some. I have big balls literally and figuratively, and I think doesn't make me any less soft as a person, though. Like, I'm brave to do. I'm willing. I'm a willing person. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't shit the bed if I was in a war and somebody was shooting at me.
What's interesting? What's interesting though is how quickly you would adapt to your surroundings.
Well, how do we
right?
know? I guess I don't.
We don't, but kind of seemingly the reason why we are so soft is because we've inherited this incredibly comfortable scenario. Like, we're all incredibly privileged. You and I, speaking about you and I.
Yeah.
About
totally.
Like the world that we've grown up. We have air conditioners and refrigerators and dishwashers and clothes washers. And like, can you imagine just how much time you would have to take to wash your clothes if you didn't have a washer and dryer? Like, you'd have to like find a body of water and like walk to it with all your clothes. First of all, you'd have less clothes because you're like, I'm not washing all of this BS. The closets would go out the window. You would have like one little bag and it would have like a pair of pants.
I already have that, dude.
Shirt. I've seen your closet, bro. You got some tees. None of them have sleeves, but
no sleeves, dude. I'm trying to rock these. What's up?
Your life would be, and we're just used to it. We were just born into this world where you flip the switch and the light turns on, or you open the fridge and it's cold and you have ice cold milk, which, oh dude, some whole milk is always nice at the evening. And I think it's not necessarily by our own doing. We've just inherited it. But I think because we've grown up in this society, which is incredibly comfortable and beautiful, it also kind of makes us a little bit soft. It's like a catch-22 where we've maybe sacrificed quite a bit of the human experience for comfort.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
But aren't you gonna say when Rudy's 30, like his generation is soft? Because they're like everybody, like every grandpa's like, I walked 35 miles uphill both ways, Sonny, and you just like, everybody's always harder than the next generation following them, and so it's just like everybody thought like they were harder than the next group that came after them. And so like, I don't think it's all relative, right? When our grandparents were potentially in or around World War II, they probably were just like, we're so soft as well, and thought the same thing because they didn't have any other reference. All they had was what they had, and they were like, man, think about the being around in the 1200s or something. I don't even know what was happening back then. I imagine it was a lot more difficult than being in the 1940s.
Yeah, I get your logic on that. I don't look at Rudy's experience, his potential experience, and go, oh, it's going to be so easy. Like, I almost look at it, it's kind of like we're in this weird plateau stage. Obviously, I'm just hypothesizing. Hypothesizing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the
hypothesizing?
Is that a term? Is that a verb?
I think I've said that before.
I'm hypothesizing that when Rudy becomes my age, the world, I mean, if we continue on this course with messing up climate and screwing with the anatomy of the universe, it could be super hard for him. And then I look at my grandparents' generation and I'm like, that must have been super hard. I feel like I exist in this place where I'm like, I am so placid and like made out of just petroleum jelly.
It's good that you recognize that and don't just think you're a badass.
Dude, anybody who actually
because there's a lot of people that just think they're hard as fuck.
Oh, I don't want to hang out with those people.
I don't either. Dude, can I tell you something? And you can judge me all you want.
Yeah.
from this.
I will.
I know. I actually want you to just give your opinion exactly as it comes.
Okay.
Because I told this person that I was going to bring this up. So like 3 hours ago, I was at the gym and I was hanging out. I was exercising, and I get this call from a number that I don't recognize. But when it's like a different area code, I don't even know where it was from. But sometimes it's like a casting director has like a different area code or something. So I typically just pick up these calls unless it's like telemarketer or blocked call or something stupid that I can recognize as being spam. So I answered, and I was like kind of just finishing up, and it's this lady. She's just like, hey, oh my God, like I didn't think you were gonna answer. I didn't know that you were gonna like actually pick up your phone, and now I don't know what to say to you. And I was like, well, hold on, like who is this? She was like, oh, my name's Lena. Like I've sent you some texts before. I got your number from the Valentine's Day banquet. And like, you know, I took it, and like you've responded to texts of mine before, and like you've been so sweet, and like, you know, I've been watching the podcast for a really long time. Like I've watched every episode, and I think you and Allen and Steve are all so great, and like you just seemingly have this like incredibly positive attitude about life, and I'm just like really going through a tough time right now. And she's like, I honestly, I can't believe that I'm even talking to you right now. I can't believe you picked up. And at this point I'm like, well, I'm on the phone, like I'm like, okay, like shit, what's happening? You know, I kind of like stop exercising and I start talking to her. Dude, I talked to her for a full hour.
Sweet.
Like I went on to have like a full on hour-long conversation. I walked back from the gym, which takes me like 15 minutes, but I like sat down halfway through my walk and just like talked to her. And, you know, basically the conversation came down to being like, she's like, I'm going through a really hard time. And I think that like you you have such a positive outlook on life. And I just like felt like I would take a shot in the dark to see if you could help me find my positivity. And I was just, and I guess the root of the conversation was that I also am struggling all the time, and being positive isn't just like a result of being like waking up in the morning and being like, I'm awesome. Like things are great. I'm so happy and great things are pumping all around me. And we talked, and, you know, I was basically talking to myself at the same time, but we had this whole like conversation about being accountable for ourselves and like our happiness, and how we actually like can contribute to our lives and wake up and change our mentality and do things like substitute moments of sadness or moments of struggle for something else in its place, like write or play music or go to the gym or do these things, which I do every single day. And I was like kind of speaking for you at the same time. I was like both Allen, myself, Steve, definitely, like all of us, like nobody's just waking up every day feeling awesome ever. Like nobody just has that. Like you have to work towards this thing. And I was really kind of giving her some tough love and like, you know, quit being a fucking baby back bitch and like hold yourself accountable. And like, but she was like laughing, and she was like, yeah, like totally. And like, look, I'm the last person that's equipped to have this conversation with anybody, because I don't know what I'm talking about ever. But I guess what I just wanted to say was that I talked to this woman for like an hour, literally an hour. And we got off the phone, and, you know, she was just like so grateful to me for taking the time to talk to her, but also to like this podcast for having given her like a moment out of every week to feel really good. And it just kind of dawned on me that like, wow, man, even if there's just one person, like out of the small amount of people that listen, you know, like you have, you know, plenty of people that have reached out to you in your career as a musician and have been like, hey man, like I've heard it before from your fans being like, when we went on the karaoke tour, people would come up to me and be like, hey, you know, you're like Allen's conduit right now because he's not here, but you are. And I want you to know that like I was in a really, really bad place. And then I like turned on an Alan Stone song, and like I didn't make the decision to do something really dire and really bad. And it's just like, man, that profound impact that you can have, that I can have, that anybody can really have without even really knowing it, you know, is crazy. And I like after 10 minutes of feeling kind of like, this is weird. Like should I keep having this conversation? I kind of just like really enjoyed having the conversation with this lady. And it was really nice because I was kind of talking to myself half the time as well and convincing myself through the whole entire conversation. But it's powerful, man. And it's cool. You know, I guess it's just to say that this podcast, for whoever's listening, some people are getting something out of it more than we even realize. And then that's awesome, you know.
So cool.
And despite how many people are listening or not, it does impact people, and that's crazy. So I had this long conversation, and it was, I don't know what compels me to do that, like to be that guy.
You are incredibly curious about the human condition more than any human that I know, and specifically your own human condition. Like, you analyze yourself and why you do certain things and why you feel certain ways more than, and I feel like I do it way too much. I'm way too inward, and you are 10 times more inward than I am. So I think that you just have a natural curiosity towards human life and why we are doing the certain things that we do and why we deal with aspects of existence in the way that we do it. So I think you're just inclined to do that, and you should continue to do it. You find incredible joy. You're the guy at the house party that's off in the corner with somebody. Like, I can see you from across the kitchen right now in my mind, just like waving your arms, like, bro, life is great, man. In the world, you know, like you kind of pull people aside naturally and really take the time to invest peer to peer, person to person, which is why you have so many great friends. Which is why you're everybody's like, first call in those moments. You're the guy that people pick up the phone and call when they're in that specific situation, which is, it's sometimes it might feel like a burden. Other times it might bring you joy. You may not understand it fully because you're inside of that interaction, but somebody looking at it from afar, like me, nobody calls me if they're going through a rough time, because I'm like, I do. Well, you do, but we have a special relation. I mean, like, if somebody my car's broken down, I'm like 10 miles from your house, can you come hook it up? Sure. But if somebody's like, dealing with an emotional problem, I don't get that call. And it's because, I'm the king of like just skating on top of the cake icing. I'm the king of just like small talk, and like I'm the guy at the party who's just gonna chuck a few jokes your way.
Conditioned to having to do that from the volume of people you've had to talk to. Like, if I imagine that if I had that many people, like you're a volume guy, like, because you see so many people. Like, you have friends too, man. Don't dumb it down. Like, you definitely have friends that would reach out to you and call you that's outside of myself. And again, like, just, as a caveat here, none of this that I'm saying is like trying to like fish for compliments and have you be like, well, this is why, Julian. I'm not being like, this isn't like false bravado or some type of shit that I'm trying to pull to have you say nice things about me either. I'm just fascinated by like the fact that I had this hour-long conversation with a complete stranger today.
It totally makes sense to me that you would do that as your buddy who's been your friend for close to 20 years now. Like, it absolutely makes sense to me that you would pick up. First of all, for anybody listening who doesn't have any context as to why, her name Lena.
Yeah. Lena, maybe?
Lena. We did a Valentine's banquet production called Allen's Day. And we had a VIP experience after the showing and the premiere of the show. And I just felt incredibly compelled to throw Julian's personal phone number up on the chat board. And he got hounded for months after this. Not hounded. I mean, these are sweet people. They're very cool. But like, your phone was going off the hook for a while. And so this is why Lena, this wonderful person, had your number to begin with, is because your boy Al was just giving it out like it was a pamphlet at a Mormon banquet. Yeah, I mean that makes total sense to me. But to touch on your point about happiness being a choice, you're absolutely correct in that. It's like you are the director of your own orbit, and we all there's things that come into our orbits that are like, damn, right? But you possess the power to choose how you receive that stuff, right? Like, I got into this author named Eckhart Tolle for a good year. He wrote this book called The Power of Now, and Taz introduced it to me, and I was going through just the worst couple years of my life. I was, abusing my body and not eating right, not sleeping. I was going through crazy crap with my music business, and I was just stressed all the time, anxious all the time, could hardly make a decision. I was so in my head. And I think Eckhart, his point among the many points that he makes is that most of our anxieties and our stresses go from future thought or past thought, right? We like take something that that happened in our past that we received as, oh, well, this is painful to me, so I need to label this specific interaction as painful, and I need to look out for it in the future. And what happens in those moments is we don't live in the only thing that exists, which is the now, right? We're thinking ahead in the future. I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to enjoy my job. I'm always going to be ugly or fat or whatever the thing is that we throw on our shoulders and we walk around with our entire life. And all of that is future thought based on past pain, what he calls our pain body. And if we exist only in the now and we focus only on the current moment, which is literally the only thing that exists, right? We think because the future has come in the past, if that's a weird way to put it, but we've lived in the future before, we think the future is going to continue to come. And so we look out for things, and that's our defense mechanism. That's our flight or fight. You can label it any which way, but so much of my stress in life comes from jumping out of like what's actually really happening in the moment, what's really around me, what is real. And you have to choose. You can't, some days it's easy, some days it's hard, but yeah, you got to wake up every day and like just push that rock up the hill and choose to focus on things. There's a Bible verse, and I'm terrible at like location of Bible verses. I wish I was better at that, but I think it's a proverb. It says, whatever is, essentially, I'm going to butcher it, but whatever is good, whatever is holy, whatever is righteous, think about such things. And not like, I think in that moment, that word think is a verb. Actively focus on those things. If something enters your scope that's not righteous, not holy, then try to get rid of it. Just don't focus on it. Yeah. Don't think of it. I think there's an activation in mental health that we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about pulling ourselves out of the pit of despair or pulling ourselves out of our mental perspective. It's right. I'm always, a lot of the times in that orbit, we're the victim. And I think that humans possess a lot more power than we think we do in cultivating our surroundings and cultivating the world we want to live in. But
totally, man.
The world would be a much better place if people would just take time like you did, man, that's savage. Like, it's really cool that you did that. I don't know if I would,
Yeah, I mean,
would
it
do that.
felt
I don't
nice.
pick
And
up my
honestly,
phone
like,
when you call.
I know. You fucking jerk.
Hey, folks. Today, our episode is brought to you in part by our good friends at Ladder Coffee. Head to laddercoffee.com and you can order beans directly from the brewer, as well as some of this beautiful cold brew. Locally owned and operated out of Spokane, Washington. Check it out. Ladder Coffee.
I'm jacked!
I think there's something really important about like destigmatizing mental health too, though. Like, it's not. I think it's starting to get a little bit talked about in like in the public space of people who are public figures. But you know, one of the things that I was so shocked by was that this woman thought that I had it all figured out. She was like, "You just seem like you have it all together, and you're like you're so happy, and like everything is so good, and you're just like you just are like this perfect person." And I'm like, you couldn't be more wrong if you tried. Like, that's just so off base. And it's not to say that I'm like not a happy person or like not, I am happy, but I don't just like inherently possess joy. You know, I don't know if people do. I think you can like work really hard to just have it exist with you. But that takes a lot of work, you know? And it was just like, no, like, not like myself, like the people that you're talking about right now, this woman, in reference to this woman, was like you and me and Steve, right? And she's just like, you guys are all just like so joyous. I'm like, first of all, we're talking on a podcast. We're like aware that we're talking like to each other, but also like on microphones, right? Like, we get it. We're trying to have a compelling conversation for like the 76 people that are going to listen to us talk. But at the same time, like, you know, we're not trying to be disingenuous at all. We're trying to be authentic in ourselves. And I don't know, I was like, I guess if we haven't talked about the fact that like it's hard for us too, not like, and that's a subjective word, because like, you know, we're very privileged people, but like mentally it's hard, you know, to just get up every morning and to like push that rock up the hill, like you said. It's not easy. And I think, you know, letting people know that like they're not alone in this fight to just like try to find joy in their daily pursuit means a lot more when they hear it come from somebody like yourself, who they like really admire and look up to and are inspired by. Like, oh wow, like I think it makes them feel a little like it just makes them feel not so alone. And I think that's really important. So it was nice to talk to her, and I think her biggest takeaway was that like I'm just fucked up as she is. You know, like we just deal with it differently and manage it differently.
Do you notice that humans have a tendency to look for a savior, look for a figurehead in some way to show them the path towards, let's call it enlightenment, let's call it happiness, let's call it fulfillment? Do you notice yourself doing that? And do you notice other people doing it? And also, why? Why do you think we do it? Why do you think we look for this other human, this quote unquote God savior, to show us the direction for this life?
Yeah. I think for myself, I don't know that I'm necessarily looking outwards for something else outside of what I already possess. So it causes me a lot of overwhelming anxiety, because I hold myself accountable to having the answer for myself, whether or not I know that or not. It's just like a higher power isn't going to just like answer my questions for me. So if I need something right now, I have to figure out how to get it for myself. Half the reason why I'm a pretty minimalist minded person, I'm just like, I don't need to know a lot. I don't need to have a lot of things. Like, I just want to like exist. I have big dreams. I'm pretty ambitious. I have like, you know, a lot of aspirations to do cool things, but I don't rely on many other people besides myself, because I haven't had any luck in my life when I have relied on other people, or other ideas of that don't exist within me. It's like, as soon as I drop the ball, I have never had it get picked up by anybody else and passed back to me. I mean, maybe I have, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but just to your point, I don't personally look outwards towards like this thing that I need as a savior that isn't already within me. I think a lot of people might have that thing within them as well, but I think there's just so much confusion and so much uncertainty, especially now in like 2021 specifically. It's like people are probably going towards God. Like my brother, has recently had a lot of tragedy in his small family, and he's kind of reverted over to God as a saving grace for him, and it's helping. And to that, I'm like grateful for that, for that to be a thing for him, to help him and to move him through this with grace, and to have some joy in his life because he was going through it so hard. So to know that it's uplifting him and helping him is encouraging. But he's reaching, I think, for it because he has nowhere else to run. He has nowhere else to go, has nowhere else to put his energy. Whereas for me, I haven't had that kind of tragedy. I have always kind of known what to do with whatever I'm dealing with, whether or not I act on it the right way or don't. Like, I've made a lot of mistakes in my actions, but I had to learn from those mistakes because I wasn't looking towards somebody else or relying on somebody. But I think it comes from just uncertainty and confusion and not knowing where else to turn a lot of times. But I didn't grow up in the church, and there's a lot of people that just, actually like believe that that's where the answers are. And I've just never really bought into that notion. Because I think that I am in charge of my own destiny, and that puts a lot of responsibility on me, and makes me have to make a lot of bad decisions and good decisions and take a lot of risks and fail a lot.
But it makes total sense. Maybe utilizing the word savior or God maybe taints the question that I was originally referring to, but whether it be political leaders or adults or
icons
or your parents, like, we all kind of look towards somebody else to go, they've got it figured out. There's something that they know that I don't, and I want to mimic what I see them doing. And I do it a ton. And part of me thinks that comes from an ingrained sense of human existence, which is community. Like, we learn to walk because we watched other people walk. Some of that might be genetically passed down. I'm sure it is. I'm not an anthropologist, so I don't really know the science on that, but I learned to play basketball because my older brother played basketball and my dad played basketball, and I looked to them and I was like, I want to do that, right? There seems to be this inherited trait in humans, which is look outside of ourselves, because you have to. In order to survive in the world around you, you have to look at how other people are doing it and how other people are making it work. But so often, that inherited trait pulls us out of our actual power, which is within us. I would imagine, in life, in your career and how you exist, look towards other figureheads, other icons, other people that you're like, man, that guy, that character he played in that specific role, or the way his choice there, right? We look to those as what some people would call inspiration. But it's so hard to know when you're like, there's a balancing act there, because sometimes you can lose yourself in looking to other people, and then other times you look too much into like, we know plenty of people who they don't give two shits about what's happening in the world around them. They're in themselves. They're like, whatever I think is the way it goes. So there has to be this weird balancing act, but it's funny how those human tendencies lend themselves towards somebody calling you on the phone and going, I don't understand how you do it. Why do you seem like you have it together so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not looking at all inside and going, okay, hold on. Like, I am responsible for my own existence, for my own happiness, for my own joy. It's the human experience is so bonkers, dude. It's so out of this world. Like,
no, but does it give you comfort to know that the person that you're looking up to, thinking expecting that human to have it all figured out, is it comforting for you to know that they don't, or is it discomforting for you to know that they don't also, because that just means we're never going to be figured out?
Yeah, I think that is that classic saying, don't meet your idol. If you get the opportunity to meet your idol, don't meet him, because you understand the human in them,
right?
Which I think, I grew up in the church. I know a lot of people who the God as a figurehead is so important in their life that you could give them every piece of evidence to tell them that the Judaic Christian religion is not what they believe it to be, and it would not benefit them for that to be torn down. Me, I'm just a constant searcher. I hate authority. So like, it was perfect for me to go, this is not for me. I don't need this. I don't need a figurehead to like look up to and just believe that everything is in their hands. But it's interesting. Like, I've found my own religion in some capacity. I sort of believe that every single human is religious, right? Some people are religious via a specific tenet, which is Christianity or Catholicism or Islam. And then there's like postmodern religion, like you and me, which is we just assemble all these sort of ways of living in this, 35-year-old life salad. And we're like, well, okay, I'm not going to eat too many carbs. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to listen to Sam Harris at least 14 minutes a day. I'm going to run. I got to exercise. Got to get my exercise on. I got to be up on social media. I got to have a presence online. Like we create and cultivate our own religion. And when life comes at us and we go, we throw our hands up in the air, whatever the frustration is. I don't know how to handle this. I don't understand this pressure. I think the perspective of people who believe in a figurehead like God is, when they feel powerless, they go, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give up this notion in my own existence to try and figure this out and like resist. Like, my constant interaction with stress or anxiety is like, I'm going to resist it. If something comes my way that I don't like, I'm going to resist it, right? And it just makes it worse. Seemingly, it just makes, obviously, like, within bounds, right? Like somebody's trying to mess with my kid, like I'm gonna resist that. But you know, somebody says something mean to me, you know, to resist it and to think about it and dwell on it, it just makes the whole scenario worse. Whereas if you chose and you had power over the way you received that, it wouldn't faze you. I've kind of just talked into a big circle and I don't even really understand or remember what the original question was that you asked me. I just like went off on this.
No, it's great, man. It's great.
Adventure.
You were kind of starting on this whole like don't ever meet your idol kind of thing, and then you went off on the tangents. And
I think it's just like growing up in the church, it was always sort of talked about like your relationship with God is your own personal relationship. Meaning we're all going to meet here on Sunday and we're all going to sing the same songs and we're all going to listen to the same minister and we're all going to like read the same book. But ultimately your relationship is personal. And I never got that. I mean, like so many things growing up in the church, I never got, because like I can understand things subjectively, but like truth to me is objective. You know, like
did
I can't
you just lie about like knowing those things then and buying into them, or did you like how did you like navigate that?
Well, I bought into the community, so you know my family was incredible. All my friends and their families were incredible, and so it was like, well, this is great. We're all hanging out. You know, this is my squad. But you know, it's kind of like if you're a Seahawks fan and you're like a tried and true, like I'm going to paint my face and go to the stadium. I'm going to spend $300 on a ticket. I'm going to go like, and then your seat is right next to a Redskins fan. Oh, not Redskins, but Washington. What's the Washington's mascot now?
Redskins. Oh, it's not Redskins?
It can't be Redskins.
Oh, really?
No,
Can't be
canceled
Redskins.
this whole
Really?
podcast. Yeah, they changed the name. Anyways.
No, come on. Just because you said their name, I'm not going to cancel it.
I'm just messing around.
That's what their name was for like 50 years.
I know. You sit right next to the Cowboys fan, right?
Sure.
And
that's going to go away soon too.
I know, yeah, right. If you were to actually think about how ludicrous it is that you are a fan of this team, right? Like just because some billionaire built a stadium in the area code where you randomly were existing in,
right?
None of the players on the field know your name or give a shit about like
right.
you do or don't come. They don't care. Now a player would be like, no, the fan, we do it for the fans. It's like, bro, come on. You get paid $20 million to throw your body at somebody else as hard as you possibly can. It don't matter if there's people in them stands or not. You're still going to play as hard as you can because some billionaire is paying you $20 million. Like going to a sporting events and seeing people like get legit. We have friends, right? If their team doesn't win, their whole week's messed up. If you think about that logically, pulling yourself away from it far enough, me personally, I go, that's the dumbest thing. Like this is so dumb.
Right.
But those people, like, that's their church. They need that.
It's a religion. Right.
It's a religion for them. Like the energy and the emotion and the captivation that is circulating through that fandom is so powerful. And you can't deny it. Stepping away from it.
Yeah,
like
totally.
that's BS. The same with religion. You can't step away from religion and be like, dude, are you kidding me? You guys, come on. Really? Right? But you can't deny the what that does. What that thing does for people. And it's just the power is there, right? Like how many incredible things come out of those circles, you know? Like 85% of it is really, really, really epic.
Right. Do you find it like, have you just substituted what you knew before as part of your religious identification. Have you just like substituted that for something different in your life? Do you still carry it? Do you still possess it the same way and like put it into your music, or like hold it in like you said, a salad of different things, or like is it just like, did it kind of just dissolve over time?
Yeah, I think it kind of like ricocheted, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was, let's call it like, I essentially just like woke up one day and was like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore. You know, like it made sense to me growing up, and it worked for that amount of time. And then when I was, 19, 20, I think, it was like kind of right around the same time that we met, it just didn't make sense anymore. It was just like, it didn't make sense. And I think what happened was that sent me on a trajectory, which is like, I question everything, dude. I play devil's advocate to, like, my wife will tell you, it's that's literally the attribute about me that will cost me my marriage.
Right.
Is like, I play devil's advocate to every situation. Oh, what about, I don't even possess the actual like objective perspective to jump on the devil's advocate side. I'm just a devil's advocate.
Yeah.
You sit in the living room with me and my sister, Kaylee, for an afternoon.
Pretty amazing.
Oh, and it's just like, we'll ruin a party as fast as possible. Just like, you've been in the room a million times, and I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I possess that quality, what it is about me that does that. But it's seemingly so draining for the people around me. And I think only in the last like 1 or 2 years, I've really learned, okay, so what's happening? Because essentially what I want from that playing devil's advocate is I want to spark conversation. I want to have these like mental acrobats where I want to know what you're thinking. And I want you to like toss stuff back to me. That's the only way I can really formulate an opinion and learn, is to like go over the topics. Whereas if I didn't play devil's advocate and I just jumped on the side of who's ever speaking, the conversation would those conversations to me are flaccid, right? You're like, oh, well, this is why I like houseplants. I like houseplants because you put houseplants by the window and you can come inside and you see the houseplants and you can water them and they're green. And I love green. And if I go, I agree with you 100%. Houseplants for president for the rest of my life. Go houseplants. The conversation stops right then. Or we just like pat each other on the back. We're just like, houseplants, you know? Whereas if I'm like, dude,
but what you're saying is that you don't even
fuck houseplants. I hate houseplants. They get in the way. They shed. You got a waste of water. Talk about environmentally not friendly. They waste. That's the side I would take just to like stir up that conversation. But what I'm finding is that personality trait is like, it's only helpful in some relationships. Like me and my sister, we love that sort of interaction. You and I, we get off on that kind of interaction sometimes. But like most people, it completely drives them away. They hate it.
Right.
And I don't know if I always possessed that or if that came after I decided to like leave the church and then start just questioning everything. Right? Because like a large portion of my life, I didn't question much, other than like, why can't I stay out past 10? But even that wasn't like, I didn't even question that.
Do you have opinions at this point, or are your opinions solely that of what you discover through those conversations when you're having them, playing the devil's advocate? Because you just inherently play the devil's advocate, not because you necessarily buy into what you're even advocating for. You're just trying to
explore,
like keep it going, keep a conversation stimulating.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have opinions, right? Everybody has opinions. What I'm attempting to try and grow into and be better at is not identifying with my opinions. Like, I want opinions and ideology and belief to be as fluid and as it just like water, right? Like I want to be able to hold a conversation, not appear and seem like I'm holding a specific view, rather just posing views. I think we have to start doing this, or else we're going to continue to see the divide that is seemingly breaking up our world and our country, is that people identify with their beliefs. They believe that these ideologies are a part of them, and so when you challenge those ideologies, it like seems to break down the core of who they are as a human. And that's not what you are. Not your beliefs, you are not your ideas, you are Julian. And to be able to exchange those ideas back and forth and to talk about them openly and not be offended if somebody challenges them, that's like a trait that we've somehow lost somewhere along the way. And that's ultimately what I would like to do more as, going into my mid 30s, is I'd like to be able to find a way to talk to people and stimulate conversation in that same regard, which is, not necessarily playing the devil's advocate intentionally, but imposing, a different perspective.
Yeah, just
and
challenging
instigating conversation, rather than like, because I kind of stand, puff my, when I get in, you know it, you see me in those conversations. Well, I'm right. This is my perspective. There's like a cockiness to it, and it essentially just like breaks down conversation. And all I really want is just to instigate thought and to learn and to try and talk more. That's really what the basis of it is. I don't know where I picked that up, but I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why it's called the devil's advocate, because you're definitely, challenging that, and it makes people feel comfortable. And I think we're, in a day and age where it's such a catch-22, because I think there's like this desire to be like polite with how we go about everything, and like trying to kind of walk on eggshells with what we say, and being like, politically correct and stuff. But we wind up actually all being more offensive towards each other through that approach as it is, rather than just like being assholes and saying what we want to say and being like upfront and honest.
Well,
we're trying to like skate around stuff, and it's just
but I completely agree. But to that point, I think what has to happen is you don't need to be an asshole. Like sharing ideas. I mean, that's essentially what is beautiful about language, and why we developed language as humans, is because conversation can come before warfare, right? At some point in the human experience, it was just like, well, I can't understand this person, so we're just going to fight, right? And then at some point in human history, we developed language so that we could discuss, we could talk, we could like break down the tension of a situation by conversation. And what's happening now is like, we're not talking. We think we're talking by posting on the internet, but the internet is such a terrible way to discuss.
Communicate.
I mean, this is great, and the internet's allowing us to do this, but most internet interaction, and seemingly the interaction that becomes so volatile, is the post and run and like slam dunking on people on Twitter. And that, like, people need to understand that that's about as good for you as McDonald's. I heard it put really well and really cool recently that processed food over the last like 15 years, most people are aware of how bad it is for you, regardless of whether you eat it or not. Most people are like, yeah, it's terrible for you. It's processed sugar, awful. Most people know it. Nobody knows yet how bad processed information is for you. And that's what you're getting on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, these quote unquote connecting enterprises that don't actually connect you, because you're getting sound bites, you're getting tidbits. You're not in the room with people. You're not sitting next to them and experiencing their body language and, communicating in more forms than just the written language. And we need to get better at that. We need to get better at facilitating conversation that doesn't grow to the heightened sense of, like where it is, like people not being able to discuss things at Thanksgiving because your uncle voted for Trump. Like that's so stupid. It's so dumb to think that like a decision that small and minute would cause families to break apart. Like you have to be able to discuss things and talk about them. And we've gotten to a place in the world where we aren't able to do that as well as we should. And me personally, I'm the same way. Like I need to be able to figure out like, okay, how do I not identify with what I think in this moment, not be hurt, or, let's discuss, let's talk. Because ultimately the breakdown of that, sorry to interrupt you, ultimately the breakdown of that is violence. Like the little seal that we're like, we've put a dam in that's really small. The only thing keeping us from breaking that seal is conversation. And once that seal is broken, it's violence. There's nothing in between there. Maybe regulation, like maybe going, okay, well, the government or society is going to tell me I can't talk like this or do like this, but it's still a thin barrier in between conversation and violence. And I'm speaking to myself in this notion that like,
totally.
I've got to.
There's also we also have an opportunity to just agree to disagree as well, and absolutely. I think that gets lost as well so often. It's just like we forget that we can just agree to disagree because we're so caught up in like winning, or being on a side that's like it can't be anything but this, and if that, then I can't communicate with you. I can't be your friend.
Right.
You've betrayed the family. You're exiled from this family now. Like, I have people in my immediate family, and so does probably everybody, man, that like has experienced that over the course of the last couple of years,
it's terrible.
And it's really sad because it's like I think a lot of people saw it happening more so in like this last 4 years, right? And we obviously know why, but like it's seemingly so easy to create a compromise in by just saying like, hey, cool, agree to disagree, dude. Like that's all, that's fine. And that's great. Like, and we can either like continue to have this dialogue about this thing in a loving way, or we don't have to talk about it really at all. And we can just talk about that one time that we caught shrimps and made shrimp scampi over on the promenade. It's just like, whatever. We don't need to talk about it either. Well, we can, but we don't, like, if it's going to go in that direction, there's absolutely no reason to let it go there. And it's just seemingly always where it goes. And it's too bad.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's what's the goal? What is the goal at the end of the day? Is the goal to take what you think and make the other person think the same exact way as you? Or is the goal to communicate and connect? And I think people lose sight of what the goal is at the end of the day. Like, this is what I love most about me and my sister. My sister's like kind of that figurehead of a person that we always get into these battles, like, and we love it. And at the end of the battle,
it's awesome.
Everybody around us is like, what just happened? Are you guys not family anymore? And me and Kaylee will like, we've done it a few times since being back. She just moved to Spokane, and so we see each other a lot more. We're in person a lot more. And so we really flare up, and it's not mad. We seem like we're upset at each other, but at the end of the day, we hug, and then we call each other the next day. We're like, hey, that was fun. I really enjoy those conversations. Actually, I like having somebody that I can bounce off of. But what I think we ultimately lose sight of in communicating with others is that problem with identifying with your beliefs. That like, if I'm wrong in this, my whole world blows apart. And if you can respect someone else enough to go, your perspective is your right. And also, you are not your ideas. You are just a conduit of perspective.
Right.
I think, and I say all this whilst promoting a perspective. Like it's such a catch-22 because right now I'm like promoting this is how we should do it, and this is what the world needs now. What the world needs now is rubs, sweet rubs, like some back rubs and some tickles and a couple of ice cream banana split sundaes. That's what the world needs now, bro. What I'm talking about,
Dude,
baby.
a couple ice cream sundaes.
I distinctly remember a trip coming back from Sandpoint. You and I, Taz, Rudy, our friends Teddy and Ty, took a little vacation after the Valentine's banquet, bringing up the Valentine's banquet again. Great little getaway. And we were coming back, bro, and it was late, and there was a Dairy Queen.
Oh, dude.
Remember that, boy? And the wifey was asleep in the back, so we were like, when wifey's asleep, the boys play.
The boys play hardball.
And it was all going really well. It was all going real well until we pulled up to that little menu speaker and you ordered a Heath Blizzard. And I said, get out of my car. Get out of my car.
Dude.
Who
Is that
orders
what I
a
ordered?
Heath? Yeah, dude. My dad orders Heath when we go to DQ. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Why are you wasting the cows, bro?
I don't think, did I really do that?
I don't know. I was just trying to make
Damn. Yeah, I mean, is that not what I did? I may have done that.
I don't think so. I can't. You don't seem like a Heath orderer to me.
I can make some bad decisions on my blizzies every once in a while, dude. Definitely make some bad decisions. But Taz woke up and she was upset with us for not getting home quicker. I remember that. She didn't want one.
I can't remember what. She woke up and she's like, "What are you guys doing?
What are you guys doing?
I gotta go to the bathroom or something."
Did you guys take a fucking detour?
Did you guys do that?
Dude. Speaking of taking little solo trips, you just posted, and speaking of posting and communicating, you communicated through post a song, a new thing that you're doing, I guess, which is fucking rad. That was the best song I've ever heard, dude. That was the best song I've ever heard you play in my life. I listened to it 19 times on my Bluetooth soundbar in my house, dude.
How was the mix? How was the mix?
It's great.
Good. I mixed it myself.
It was so good. And then, dude, I've been listening to Johnny Farnes on reap all day today, dude.
Check out Johnny Farnes and Olivia Newton-John have a compilation album together where they sing all tunes together.
Really?
Yeah, Olivia Newton. Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Still firing.
What's this? What's the thing called that you're making it, like songs I wish I knew, songs I wish I wrote? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that was just the title of it's so interesting how like things happen nowadays. You just like, and that's kind of
take shape. Yeah.
The cool.
What is it now? You have a series?
Oh yeah, like you did a series, and I came up with the name, and like I want people to pay attention to me. I'm vain, so I post something, and I make something that I think people are gonna like, and then you just call it something, and then all of a sudden you have a thing. Like people are like, "Oh, that's a great idea for a series." It's like, oh,
yeah, well,
okay,
yeah. I mean, it's kind of it must be kind of cool when you have a following big enough to like put something out and title it something and say like, hey, like this is my songs I wish I wrote, because it's literally just what you think about that song. It's a song I wish I wrote. Put that as a title. You say this is the first song of this series, and then all of a sudden, like there's like an expectation from your fans. It's like you have a series now. You better keep doing it, because now people are going to have expectations. But also, man, it's a great and creative way for you to continue to like do those covers, which I know you have kind of scoffed at a couple times because it's just like, man, I want to play my own music and I don't want to have to just like do covers and stuff because it seems cheap. But that kind of gives it a cool creative approach to doing it, and it makes it kind of more fun and gives it your own spin on things, which is great. Plus, that song kicked ass, dude.
It's a great song.
Real talk. Are you? I know you were kind of concerned about your shows happening or not happening. Can you talk about any of that stuff yet, or do you know? Does it matter if you talk about it? Like, do you know if you're going to be playing in New Zealand or Melbourne or anything like that? Melbourne?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's open knowledge to anybody who is aware of the situation over here. We're in a lockdown in Melbourne. Hopefully the lockdown will lift by Tuesday. My shows in Melbourne are supposed to start on Wednesday. So there's a chance that we'll be able to do them at half capacity, but if we do get to do them, it's going to be like, down to the wire, kind of deflating ultimately. Like, it's just, you put, and I put less work into it than like my management team and my booking agent and the venues and like everybody involved. And I was discussing it with my manager yesterday. It was like, this pandemic is like, it's such a complex problem and you can't point your finger at anybody. That's what's so frustrating about it. Right, it's like, you can't point your finger at the CDC or the WHO. Like, everybody ultimately just wants to point their finger at somebody and go, that's the problem. That guy, if it wasn't for Trump, if it wasn't for Putin, like, but this problem is so, and most problems that are as widespread as and as big of issues as this, like global warming. A lot of people think about global warming and it's such a complex, gigantic problem that you just feel powerless sometimes. So what am I going to do? Like, I have to drive my car. I can't not go to work and not pay for my food. I can't completely cut out single-use plastics. It's impossible. Like, I feel that way a lot of the times in problems that are that big and gigantic and complex. And it's the same with this pandemic. Like, you just can't, like, it's such a gigantically complex problem that you're frustrated, but you don't know who to be frustrated at.
Right.
Because
so you just
the people in positions of power, like, they're doing their best to keep people alive, and they like, can you imagine being like a governor right now?
Hell no.
Like, how insane it must be, how much hatred must be tossed your way because of like the decisions you're making. And you're a human, you're a person. You might have a mental capability that's a little bit higher than the average human, but like, you're a human. You can't predict the future. You can't fully comprehend what's going to happen in 3 months. And to put laws in place that constrict or dictate humans' ability to live and to work, like, God, that must be such a complex thing to have to deal with. So it's ultimately just, it's frustrating. And I can't imagine that nobody in the world right now dealing with COVID, what are we, 18 months in to it right now?
Yeah.
And even so, like, I'm talking with people back home that are having to cancel shows again and having to, like, elite athletes aren't able to go to the Olympics because they're catching COVID after getting vaccinated, fully vaxxed. Yeah. It's like, this is like, who's setting the boundaries here anymore? Like, the lines are just changing. The field goal posts are getting smaller.
I know. Are you feeling excited to come back to the States, or are you like nervous to come back to the States, or how are your thoughts on all of it?
honestly, it's just I feel flaccid, kind of just like
Yeah.
I'm excited to come back to the States, but I'm also just weary of getting my hopes up for anything. Like
Mhm.
the amount of things that we attempted to do during this time to like maintain a living and continue to be artists, how many of those things were like shut down because of this pandemic, right? And it seemed to happen every time. Every time we attempted to do anything, it was like, oh, my third cousin, twice removed that I
Yeah.
saw, outside at the park for 25 minutes. His brother's uncle's cousin caught COVID, and I don't want, it kind of sounds like I'm diminishing
No, I mean,
COVID.
it was what happened. Yeah.
It was what happened, but the way that I'm putting it is not
Yeah. I
sensitive at
mean,
all to people who have lost,
of course.
friends and family to this.
I think people know
pandemic.
you're not trivializing this. It's just, we did have to shut down. We did have to rearrange whole situations, and it was a real privilege to be able to be doing stuff as it was during that time, and we persevered and we still made it happen. So if that's a testament to anything that we're capable of, then it's like, at least you got that. If you can't get your hopes up about getting back out on the road and playing live shows again for a little while, which hopefully you can, and that's not actually going to be a problem, you now know that you're capable of doing a whole lot more than just that, and putting your time and energy into those things that we've already kind of started planting the seeds for are really important components to our future success as friends and as like collaborators and as just artists in general individually, because ultimately in the beginning of the pandemic you were kind of stoked on just like, man, maybe I won't have to get back out there. And that's what's so interesting to me too, is in being out here, is that I'm like seeing the world come back, and I kind of expressed this. I had adopted a whole new mindset around how I wanted to approach being an artist once the pandemic happened, and I started spending time with you, and I recognized what I was capable of doing and what I was, inspired to do more of. And then coming back to New York, as much as I'm happy to be here, I totally fell back into those same patterns of wanting so badly to be a product of the thing that I was excited to be away from. And I'm excited because I like doing what I do, and you do too. You love playing live shows, and there's so much excitement around that for you, and it's your livelihood. But shit, man, if we get more time afforded to us by route of not being able to do the things that we have been doing for a long time, and we get another chance to just like buckle down and get creative, whether we get that chance or don't, like we're going to still take advantage of that and do that forever. And it's not like, I don't know, for a while I was like, what else, if not becoming a successful actor, what am I gonna do with my life? I don't have anything, like I've invested so much into this. What else am I gonna do? And it's just like, dude, don't be so defeatist, man. You can do so many things. I'm not gonna be a tech star. Is Tintin coming?
And now the dogs are going bonkers down here, and Jai's trying to wrangle them. Yeah, I think ultimately, like, I'm stoked to get back home. I'm content in life, period. Kind of,
Yeah,
whether
that's
it
awesome,
be
man.
here or whether it be back home. Definitely like my creature comforts, like having my stuff nearby. I'm starting to feel that, right? Like my office or my studio, or but I got a pretty rad setup here, and I'm able to continue to be creative. And where there's a will, there's a way. I think you just have to I think what I'm learning is, what I'm hoping to instill more frequently is like, I just like having projects. love
Yeah.
tasks. I'm task oriented. When I'm like left to my own
Yeah.
devices, my mind just wraps itself in a knot, and I'm screwed. So to keep that little carrot in front of me, which is like, just continue to be creative, continue to be, I just need something to do. I need something to like put in front of me to accomplish, and not connect myself to like what people think about it or what I think about it after it's done. You just get the thing done and then move on to the next thing, and then get that thing done, and like just stay focused on the task and the process. And that for me is, so whether the shows happen, whether tours happen, it's like, well, if that doesn't happen, then I'll fill that time with other tasks, and I think that's ultimately what's really cool about this time and this pandemic, is that I've learned that I can fulfill that. Like, I think for so long it was like, well, if I don't play shows, then like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fill my time? And pandemic has taught me that I can fulfill my time with things that are meaningful and fun and cool. And so I keep doing that. Keep rocking it, baby. Keep rocking it. Hitting that DQ, son. Hitting that DQ Heath bar, baby. Dairy Queen.
I just want to let you know that I'm a fan of your music, man. I listen to that Johnny
And
Farnes.
we didn't even address the like elephant in the room, which is like Stevie-Baby's not here. We didn't even know. We didn't even talk about that. I feel this.
Should we give him all the way to
maybe we just shouldn't mention it, and just like that'll be his punishment for not being. No, poor Stevie-Baby had to get 7 root canals in his face, and so he's like just not in a good place right now. He's resting up. So
I know we asked him.
We missed you today, but we hope you're feeling okay. If you're listening to this, which you don't, you're not going to be listening to this. You don't listen to us when you're on the show.
No, dude. I just told you, man, when we started this conversation with talking about the woman who called me, man, it was like, this show really helps. So people do, man.
All right. I love everybody, and everybody's loved. Goodbye.
I love everybody too, and I love you, Allen. I'll talk to you later.
Oh, boo-boo, did you just make it to the end of the video? Yes, you did. Do you want to see more videos just like this one? Do you?
Well, then head over to patreon.com/Live at the Lodge, where you can support the How Good's This podcast, as well as the entire Live at the Lodge family.
Yep, yeah, you're going to get exclusive merch, personalized shout-out videos. Me and Jules, we're going to show up at your house and baptize your nephew, huh? Check it out, patreon.com/Live at the Lodge.